up, lace covered skies? Today I'm here with a little bit of a different video. I have been accumulating a lot of finds from estate sales, so I wanted to kind of organize things and just do it on film, so it'll be kind of like an organize with me video, but I'm going to be talking about some estate sale tips. So I'll just go ahead and first kind of explain how I want to organize, and I need a lot of tips organizing, so if you guys have any tips, just leave them in the comments below. I've organized and reorganized so many times because the more I accumulate, the more reorganizing I have to do. I had been keeping all of my vintage sewing items in this one container, and it was good for a while, but then it grew into this container, and now I'm trying to put it away, but I have this bag. Another thing I need to organize are my vintage greeting cards, which used to fit in this container and have room left over, but now it's overflowing. And another thing I'm thinking of doing is leaving only this in terms of fabric, leaving only this on my desk, and I'll have this for bigger pieces of fabric, and then I'll have this for medium size and this for small sizes, and this for ribbons and lace. So what I'm thinking of doing, because I have more small pieces than this, I think I'm gonna gather everything and do one container for small, one for medium, one for laces and ribbons, and one for bigger pieces. That way, every time I finish a project, I can just dump it into whatever bin it goes into. And when I start a new project, I'll go to that bin and look through it and refill these working containers. Hopefully, I won't go over these, if you know what I mean. Hopefully, if I dump back all my smaller pieces, let's say, I won't expand beyond this. Doesn't look very promising, but I'm hoping that might be what happens. I will just start organizing, and I'm going to talk about my first estate sale tip. But let me preface that by saying that when I go to estate sales, I'm not looking for specific things. So I would love to find more, let's say, vintage wallpaper, but I am not set on it. What I'm more set on is getting things for a good price. And I do usually get really good deals, or else I'll walk away. So just keep in mind that all these tips are based on getting things for a good deal. And I don't mind if I miss out on something. And as I go on, you'll see why. So a lot of people go on the first day. I've never been to an estate sale on the first day. And when I go, I do that on purpose because well, I don't want to stand in line. But I know on the first day, yeah, if you're looking for like a treasure that you specifically want, that's a good approach. But because I'm not looking for anything specific, I'm just going and seeing what I might find and trying to get a good deal for it, I go on the last day. So that's my first tip. Go on the last day. I typically will plan a few out a day. That way, they're already wanting to close up. They know that they won't be able to sell it for more later or the next day. And you have a better chance of negotiating a good price for it, for whatever you're buying. So that's my first tip. To go along with that, I would say go about 1.5 hours before they close. So if a sale is closing at 2, I typically get there at 1 or 12:30, maybe at 12. That way I give myself about an hour and a half to look at everything, and that's usually enough time. And when you do that, by the time you're done shopping, it will be close to when they're closing. And from what I've seen, they get out of there right after they close. So they close up the doors after they close. And these are usually companies running the sales. So it's not the families themselves. So if you get there and they're trying to close up shop, then they'll be more inclined to give you a better deal, especially if it's the last minute and they know that if they don't sell it to you, no one else is going to buy it. So that would be definitely my second tip. Third tip, negotiate or ask for a deal. Because you know they're closing and they most likely want to get all this stuff out of there, and they'll usually tell you the bigger the pile, the better the price. So you make your pile and don't be afraid to ask for a deal. If they say, okay, how about $10 for that pile? I usually say, could you go a little bit lower? And they might say, okay, $8. Then I might, if I really don't want to pay that much, which there are times I wouldn't, I would ask for how much I want to pay for. But if I know that this pile of things, my heart is not set on it, I will just tell them exactly what I want. One time I was buying a bunch of file folders, some fabric, and these were all just used file folders that had been in the garage. And it wasn't, in my eyes, it wasn't worth that much because it was used file folders, a big stack of them, and like a stack of fabric. So I just realized that I really can't talk and sort at the same time. So they were like $10. I was like, no, it's okay. And I was ready to walk away, but he was like, well, how much do you want it for? And I was honest. I said, for a lot less than that. And he was like, how much? Just tell me how much. So I told him. I said $2. And he had started at 10. And he was going to say no, but his coworker or his partner or whoever it was said just give it to her for $3. And I was fine with that. So, never be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to, if it's not worth the money to you, don't feel uncomfortable going lower because it's an estate sale. They're just trying to get rid of the entire house. Don't be afraid to walk away. I've gone to so many estate sales and they've wanted to charge me like $25-$30 for a pile of something. And I've just said, no, it's okay, thank you. And I just leave. And yeah, you've wasted some time, but it's fine. That's just part of it. There have been times where I'll go to like 4 estate sales in one day, and I only buy things from one of them. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Okay, next is make a pile that doesn't look like a lot. So if I'm coming into this estate sale and I'm finding a little bit of stuff, and in my mind, I want to pay $4 for it, I will make my pile look like $4. So you're just piling, maybe you have a couple books on the bottom, and then you have fabric, and then you have, I don't know, some buttons and patterns. Just make it look like a small pile. There's nothing wrong with that. They're gonna go through the pile once you're up at the register anyways. And then they'll tell you how much they want to charge you. Of course, there are cases, lots of times, when they would just look at your pile, like briefly glance over your pile and give you a number. And so that's fine too. But just make your pile not look like a lot. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So that's what I do a lot. And yeah, that's that tip. And just remember, like, if you're at Joann's and you want, let's say, one of these, like seam binding, how much is seam binding at Joann's, even with a coupon? But if you're just going to throw it in your pile, what could have been, I don't know how much seam binding goes for nowadays, but let's say what could have been $1.99 with $1 off at Joann's. So this could have been $1 at Joann's, but if you throw it into your pile and they're pricing the whole pile, like let's say $5, this probably wouldn't be 1/5 of your pile. So you still get a way better deal. So that's what I really keep in mind when I'm making my piles at estate sales. That something little in there, they're not going to price individually. So chances are you're getting a better deal than if you were to go buy it at a store. And that goes into my next tip, which is look for staple items. So basics, things that you know you're going to need. For example, file folders. You know those hanging file folders that they sell at Office Depot? Those cost a lot of money. One time I was at a yard sale. It wasn't even an estate sale. And I picked up a box and went up to the register to see how much they would charge me. And they wanted $10 for a stack of used hanging file folders. So I didn't buy it. I went to an estate sale I think it was a few weeks later, and I came across a really huge pile of those hanging folders. The exact same ones. Part of those were even brand new, still sealed. I put it in with my pile, and I probably paid next to nothing for those. So, and I do that a lot with file folders. And a lot of times when they're at estate sales, they're just literally used ones or stocked up ones, and you won't get charged a lot for those. So I never really buy those kinds of things at office stores anymore because I know I can get them for a really good price at estate sales. The next tip is remember the estate sale companies that you like. For me, I remember the ones that gave me good prices, the ones that will just charge by the pile, or the ones that I know are lenient with negotiating, or the ones that they give at least 50% off on the last day. That way when I see another one of their sales come up, then I know to make sure I go to that sale. Next tip would be to be friendly to the staff that works there. So if you're nice, then they'll probably give you a better deal and they'll remember you and you can become friends and you're giving them business week after week. You know, so to me, it's a win-win for everyone. Next tip, don't carry a purse. I always wear a jacket or a vest or something like that where I can keep my what do you call it? My keys. So I generally just bring in my keys and my money, which would be the cash. And I don't bring in ever more than $20. So that limits me too. Sometimes if I'm going to a lot of sales, I'll just give myself $20 for the whole day or something like that. And that's all I carry into the sale. Because you're going to be digging around, you're going to be carrying your pile around, and it's a lot to juggle. So I would advise on not bringing a bunch of stuff in. Next tip, don't dress up. Estate sales are usually really grimy, dusty. You're gonna be on your hands and knees a lot of the time. You're gonna be out in the garage, the yard, where there's a lot of things to dig through. So I don't dress up. And sometimes this might be a really weird thing to say, but I find that if I don't dress up, sometimes I get a better deal. Next, to go along with the estate sale being grimy, dusty, all that, I try to stay safe. And I have health issues as it is, and I'm generally I try to be healthy in general. So I'm very conscious about things like mold. And if I go into a basement or a room and I smell mold, or I'm looking at a bunch of books that have mold on them, I don't even buy whatever it is, and I definitely just leave the room, especially if it's like deep in the basement or something. I just leave. I don't even look. To me, it's not worth it. Okay, I shut off the camera without telling you guys, but I filled up those other bins, so I'm going to start on these. But before I do, I wanted to show you how they come. I bought this from Target. It's a pack of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 for $5.89, I think. So basically $1 each. And they're the shoebox size. I like the color of these lids, and they stack up really nicely on top of each other. What I'm planning to do is stack 3 of them like this, and then have 3 rows, because that's what I already have in my bookcase, and I think this will fit as well. So it's a lot of storage that doesn't take up that much space. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I will sort my little pieces of fabric and ribbon and lace and all that. So I'm going to continue with my tips. Okay, the next tip would be to look everywhere. Well, look everywhere that you're allowed to go. So what they tend to do is they will block off different rooms, and they make it obvious. They block it off with tape, and they say do not enter usually. So of course, abide by those signs and do not enter. But otherwise, everything is pretty okay. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I'm gonna have a large scraps and medium. So most of these will be large. This I would consider small. This I'd say is large, even though this bin is gonna fill up pretty quickly. I think so. Like if I have a large piece and one that's the same but a little bit smaller, I'm gonna put this in here, and this is for using, and this piece I'm gonna store away. I think that's what I'm gonna do. And if I don't have a lot of this piece and I don't want to use it yet, I'm going to store it away. So I'm not going to put it in here. So this is like full access type thing. This is going to be a small scrap. Get back to the tips. Look absolutely everywhere, because there are pieces of furniture for sale, but sometimes they haven't emptied out all the furniture. Sometimes they will leave things inside the drawers. So just always look inside. You never know what you're going to find. And I've found some really cool things inside of drawers. Also, there are drawers that are part of furniture. This is small. But there are also drawers that are part of the walls and the house itself. So always look in those, like linen closets and things like that. Always look in those, because sometimes it's not really clear that those things are for sale, but if they haven't blocked it off, it's for sale. So make sure you look in areas like that. Look in the office, where there's office supplies, where you think it's just boring office supplies. No, there's so much that you might be able to use. All right, be picky. That's the next tip. Be picky. It's really easy to get carried away when you go to a lot of estate sales. And I've kind of done this from the very beginning, because I look for things for junk journals, which I'm sure most of you guys, that's what you're looking for. I only want to get the best things possible, because the things are going to show up in your junk journal. And if you don't love it, your journal's not going to look as pretty. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm being picky when I go. I don't want to bring home large quantities of items that are not my favorite. Everything I find, I try to make it my favorite. That way, I won't accumulate as much, although that's not working because I'm accumulating a lot. But that way, the things that you have are really nice. I've seen a lot of things at different estate sales that I kind of like, but I don't love, so I just leave them behind. Because if I bring it home, which I did in the beginning, I just didn't end up liking it. So that would be my tip for that. And you'd be surprised, I haven't been going to estate sales for a very long time. I started in the beginning, like February of 2018. Right now it's 2019, like summer. So it's only been a year and a half, and I feel like I have so much stuff. And every time I go, I typically don't spend more than, there's probably only been 2 times where I've spent more than $7 at an estate sale. So most of the hauls that you see on my channel, I've spent probably $7 or less, maybe $8 or something. But I don't tend to spend very much at these sales. I think I'm going to end this video here. I hope you got some helpful tips from this video. Let me know how you feel about estate sales. They're personally my favorite to go to, because I can get better prices at estate sales than at Goodwill Outlet, thrift stores, even than yard sales. I don't know why my area, they charge more at a yard sale compared to an estate sale. But definitely estate sales, I find better things at better prices. So those are my favorites. Let me know how you feel about estate sales. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.